All right. So I'm here with Michael Sassine. Say good day.
Thanks for having me.
Is that the correct pronunciation?
Sassine, yeah,
Sassine.
that's good. That's it, yeah.
And what background is that?
It's Lebanese.
Lebanese.
I think it originates from Italy.
Okay.
But because of migration and all that, I don't really know. But Sassine was originally an Italian name, but my background's Lebanese.
Okay.
My father's Lebanese and my mum's a Maori.
Oh, your mum's a Maori.
Maori,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, because that's what I was like, I'm looking at your features and I'm like, okay, it's like there's some Asian in there.
I've got that before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
there isn't, but
no. Okay.
yeah, people always assume that. I think it's because I got like it's similar eyes, like sort of chingy eyes a bit.
Yeah. Yeah, but no, like there's been a lot of obviously, a lot of Asian people were how do I put it, like travelers in terms of like, would go from island to island kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So, a lot there is quite a bit of crossover, I think, between Asians who had moved into New Zealand and some of these places, right? And like so like as an example, if you look at Hawaiians, right? So most people when they think of like Hawaiians, it's like that sort of Samoan style, islander sort of appearance. But then when you go to Hawaii, you look and it's like, hey, a lot of these people have Asian features. And it's because of like, Japanese migration and all this sort of migration. All these people had migrated into the area and sort of cross-pollinated.
Yeah.
But how you and I got to meet each other, I was commentating J&I Productions show last week.
Yeah.
And shout out to Combatants. So, I do some commentary for them. And, you had your pro debut.
I did.
Yeah. And so, I thought, let's bring Mikey on the show. Let's have a bit of a chat. Let's talk about life and all these.
That's mad. It's an honor to be here. I've never thought that I'd be doing this the week after a fight, to be honest. Yeah. And it feels, I was saying to him before, it feels weird hearing his voice. I mean, like face to face, because I'm just used to watching this fight over the weekend and I can hear, that's a nice jab from Mikey. And Ashley comes over and I'm like, oh yeah, that's the commentator. And then now I'm hearing your voice face to face. It's tripping me out.
Well, so I think, I find it interesting because, when I speak for commentary, I have to be very, what's the right word? Like you don't want it to just be like your mate talking over your fight.
Yeah.
It can't just be like, too relaxed in the sense that, it's just my mate talking over the fight from his couch talking shit. Like it doesn't sound professional, right? So
yeah, exactly.
So there is that element where it has to be professional. Excuse me. And then there's also, I always think about, okay, if I was, one of the things I love about commentary is that I get to call the fights from both sides.
Yeah.
So I get to think about it from both corners' perspectives in terms of, okay, what should each fighter be doing different, and what is each fighter doing well, or what are the adjustments? Because for me, I'm a martial artist too, so I train. I've got a fight coming up too, actually. But
awesome.
For me, it's like I always like to put that hat on to get the extra rounds in practicing my cornering skills, my commentary skills from that perspective, because. It's one thing when you watch tape, and I don't know if do you watch tape at the moment? I think you do because you watch yourself, right? Yeah. So it's one thing when you can, watch your own sparring and then go, oh, I made this mistake and I made that mistake, which is good, right? Like, don't get me wrong. I'm saying that's a great thing too. But when the action's live and like all the intensity is up, right? It's hard to make the adjustments on the fly.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
That's why you have your corner.
Yeah. And
your corner's there to say, hey, Mikey, watch out for this, or this is what you need to set up, and you start thinking about, okay, these are the next things that you need to put together. And, every gym has a different structure in it, and I guess, how each corner approaches it. But I guess, let's talk a little bit more about your little journey into boxing. Let's start with the boxing. So it was your pro debut, but how long have you been boxing in totality?
In total, I've been boxing maybe since I was about, on and off since I was about maybe 9 years old, maybe 9, 10.
9, 10.
I started boxing, around then. It was something just to get me active as a kid, you know. It was just something to give my life a bit of balance with football, because I used to play a lot of football, me and my older brother.
Okay.
That was our thing.
Yep.
And being half Maori, I mean, it's just a thing. They all play footy, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So pretty much it was just something to get me and him off the couch.
Okay.
I've always been interested in boxing, but I've always used to sit down as a kid and watch either Bruce Lee or Rocky.
Yep.
Those were my favorite movies. And I'm the type of person, I don't get sick of one movie. I watch the same thing over and over.
Yep.
But I've been fighting now for about 4 years.
Yep.
Coming up to 4 years. And I've been training solids, boxing nonstop since I was about, I don't know. about 2017, because 2017, 2018, I got back into boxing originally to lose a lot of weight, because when I was about 15 years old, I got to a point in my life where I put on too much unneeded weight.
Yep.
All right. I tried to put on as much size as possible to have that advantage in footy.
Yep.
And what happened was I got to a good size, broke my collarbone, and then, I mean, I was stuck in a sling for 8 weeks, and maddest time of my life. I hate training. Most days I hate it.
Yep.
Okay. And I was living my best life. I had an excuse not to train.
Yep.
Okay. I was sitting on the couch watching movies, Bruce Lee, Rocky, right?
Yep.
And I was just eating whatever I wished, and everyone would say to me, "Oh, you should go for a walk." No. I broke my collarbone. I'm eating.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I mean, that got me to a point where I was physically unwell, but most of all, I was mentally unwell.
Yeah.
And you know, I just felt like so defeated. I used to walk around in 3XL tops, just so to say, "Oh yeah, no, my shirt's not tight on me." So you know, weird things, bit weird here. Anyways, I went back to my old boxing gym. I think it was 2018, and the coach that I used to know, that when I went there, he goes to me, "How you going? Nice to meet you." His name is Johnny, and I go, "Johnny, it's me, Mikey." And he goes to me, "Mickey," and I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "What the happened to you?" And I said, "Oh, I took a layoff. I was playing footy. You know, I was playing junior bunny." He goes, No. What happened to you? As in, like, what the hell? You look like you ate, Mikey." I said, "Yeah." I said, "Oh no, I know." And I was like, "Oh, laters, Johnny." I said, "I'm going." And I got that angry. I was about to leave. No, I'm sorry. He goes, listen, come back. Oh, so you what? I said, "Look, I need your help." And we went through about a couple of weeks of training, and he said to me, he goes to me, "Mickey, you got some potential." And I go to him, what do you mean? And he goes, "I reckon you'd be a good boxer, but you're too big." He goes, "You're too big." He goes, "How much do you weigh?" And I said, and I was always self-conscious about my weight, and I was always self-conscious about my looks. And I used to go to him, I'm 95, not mid-90s. I wasn't. I knew damn well I wasn't. And I think he knew damn well I wasn't too. I was over 100.
So, but had you actually weighed yourself?
Yeah.
Oh, so you knew.
Yeah, I knew.
Okay.
I knew. The scale was up and down. The heaviest I had ever seen was about 108. But a constant number I saw was about 105. And he goes to me, "Okay, if you ever get to the mid 80s, let me know." 81. If that's the lowest. He goes, "Then we'll get you a fight." I got to 81. I felt like I felt like the man. I was like, "Johnny, I got to 81.
Yep.
We went out, watched these fights. One of the boys at the gym was fighting, and then he goes, "Yeah, nah, that guy's 81. You want to go down to middleweight?" So I was like, "Damn it, I got to lose more weight."
Yep.
I got down to 75, and July the 13th of July 2019, I had my first fight.
Wow.
And yeah, just been addicted to it since then, but not addicted to the competing side of things. I've been addicted to challenging myself. I've been addicted to mental challenges, physical challenges, meeting new people.
Yeah.
You know, at one stage I was going around to a lot of different gyms, just, you know, trying to get different perspectives, different opinions on boxing. But just to put myself out of my comfort zone, because I feel like me as a person, whether it was with footy or with school, I used to always, you know, resort back to the same thing, always same. And I used to hate change. So I used to purposely get around everywhere and just do different things every day just to make myself uncomfortable, you know? And doing this right now, this is something different that I don't do.
Yeah.
And the old me would say, "Nah, I don't want to talk to nobody. I just want to win the fight, go home, be fat, and eat." But now I'm talking to you, and this is cool. I've never done anything like this. This is mad.
All right, well, let's slow it right down, because there's so many things in that we can talk about, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, when you were 10, and so was it your dad's idea or your mum's idea that said, "Hey, let's take you to boxing and get you off the couch"? Or?
I think it was my dad's idea, It was my dad's idea. My mum hates boxing.
Okay.
She hates it. She always tells me, "Son, don't box, please, your face." No.
Typical mum.
Typical mum.
All mums are the same, right?
Exactly.
When I was doing martial arts as a kid as well, like my mum was the one that sent me to martial arts.
Yep.
But then at the same time, she's like, when I started to get really into it, she was like, "Oh no, you shouldn't. You're doing it too much now, right?" But anyway, so at the age of 10, and your brother was older?
My brother's older.
He's older. How many years?
1.5, 2.
Oh, so you guys are really close in age.
Pretty close, yeah.
Yeah, and then size-wise, is he bigger, smaller than you?
Naturally, he's bigger. He's pretty tall.
Yep.
Like, he was the tall dude. Yeah, natural foot. If you look at him, you just assume that he's a footy player.
Yeah.
He looks like a footy player.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and so obviously, you know, both of you guys were into footy from young, right?
Yeah, very young.
Yep.
I played up in his team when I was like 4, turning 5.
Yeah.
Because my parents wanted us to play in the same team.
Oh,
and I had no
wow.
idea. I was the worst player.
Yeah.
I never started playing good until I was about 12, 13.
Yep.
I was terrible.
So what do you think? Okay, let's digress a bit and talk about the footy thing. So why do you think that it was only until you were 12 or 13 that you actually, thought, oh, I can be okay at footy as well?
Believe it or not, I think it's just because I started to learn how to use my size.
Yep.
I thought to myself, it sounds bad, but I was like, target play, run at the small kid,
Yeah.
play smart.
Yeah.
That's what the big boys used to do to me. I want to do it to them.
Yeah.
That also, I don't know, we did have a good team too at one stage. And I don't know, I was just just copying what all the good players used to do.
That's it.
I don't know, and I still watch a lot of footy.
Yeah.
I don't know, I guess it was just a thing of maturing. I never used to be I used to just be off with the fairies. And I swear when I was a kid, it's like everybody knew I was going to be a boxer because I used to sit on the side in my own world and I was doing this stuff like Bruce Lee. I was in Bruce Lee mode straight up. It was weird. So weird. It was like it was meant to be that I ended up being a boxer.
I think a lot of kids have that. Like when I was young as a kid, I used to love watching all the, not even just Bruce Lee movies, but like the old Jean-Claude Van Damme movies.
Yeah.
Right? Like Kickboxer.
Kickboxer's a mad movie.
Like that was, probably not what most parents would be like, oh, we don't want our kids watching that. But, like I watch, USC and things like that. And sometimes, I let my kids watch it too. And my wife gets very upset with me.
Yeah.
And look, when you know their ages, it's probably rightfully so, right? Like they're 6, 4 6, almost 4 and almost 2, right? Like they're young, right? Like so.
Bless.
But, at the end of the day, look, they're going to see it eventually.
You just want to give them the experience that you had, as the experiences you had as a kid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know the feeling when you watch a movie that you're not supposed to as a kid. You're like, wow, that's mad. I want to give the same thing. If I get blessed with kids, I want to give them the same experience too.
Yeah.
Don't tell mum we're going in there watching that. I feel like that's mad. Yeah.
It's only when half the day's gone by and you're still watching fights that they probably get a little bit upset. But so with the footy thing, so when you started to get good at that, when did that stop you with your boxing?
It just, you know what? It actually stopped me with my boxing. When did it stop me? It stopped me. I took a layoff from even going or even thinking about boxing when I was about 13 up until maybe 11. Around from the 12-year-old to about 15.
Yeah,
I stopped, and it's because I started to do the whole scoring tries in footy. Felt good, and I just lost interest in boxing.
Yep.
And most of it was a fear thing, not necessarily of going into sparring and getting punched in the face, but it was just a fear thing. Like, boxing, it's a shirtless sport, and I just used to feel the pressure of going into a gym and not being as fit, not being as good as somebody else. And I was like, you know what? At least if I have a team to fall back on here, I can just get lost in the mix, if that makes sense.
You know
what I mean? So it was always a confidence issue.
Isn't it funny? Like everybody, I think a lot of people, it's very confronting when you do a sport that's, at the end of the day, yes, you have a team around you when you're training and things like that, but when you get in that ring, there's only you.
Yeah.
Right? And then, but you feel like this pressure that you need to, I don't know, like I guess the right word to put it is like you feel like you're going to let people down.
Absolutely.
Right? You have all your training partners, all these people that you coach, or your coaches, your family, all your friends that might turn up to watch you fight. You feel this pressure. But at the end of the day, it's like one of the things that I guess I sort of reflect on, with a bit of age and maturity is that, whether you win or lose, it doesn't really matter anyway.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's just what you take from it. Eh? Yeah. And I feel like that's my biggest problem with the boxing is something that I always struggle with is putting myself out there. It's not because I don't believe in myself. There's some voice inside me, even if it's deep inside me, that tells me you'll do well. When doesn't matter. But how in these movies you see there's the evil head and then the good head. The evil head's always telling me you'll always be that fat kid. You'll always be that chubby, nervous boy. That's my normal. Those are like my instant thoughts when things happen. That's why, when I did fight, you were there live. You heard the noise. For only a debut, like I never tell anybody when I fight ever. It's just me, my dad, and then my older cousin, right? One of my closest friends. He's pretty much the older brother that I never had. My older cousin. We go to every fight. Afterwards, win, lose or draw, we get a feed.
Yep.
And then there's just me, natural fat boy wanting to eat.
Yep.
You know, I'm fat boy at heart.
Yep.
So that's every fight. But just being in the pros now, I feel like you got to put yourself out there. You got to tell people. And I only told a few people, and then it's just a chain effect. I come from a very, very, very big family, and they all rocked up. And I think you can see on the combatants video when they said one syllable of my name, and then my family just, bah, yeah. And I looked at my coach, and I was like, no. I was like, oh no. And he goes, you guys just soak it all in.
Yeah, that's it.
But you know what? I wouldn't have had it any other way.
You know,
seriously, it was a very special night.
What an experience, right?
Absolutely.
You know, and that's what you should be taking away from it, is that, you know, when you go through something like that, nothing will ever replace that feeling, right? You could buy any material thing in the world, but it'll never have the same sentimental value as that moment in time. You know, that moment is your moment.
Yeah.
Right. And then, you know, when they bust out the haka, it was like, whoa.
And you know what? If you didn't see me, but in that ring, I cried like a baby. Seriously, when that happened, like, and because my two coaches, they're not really, like, they're Aussies, and they were like, I hear Brett go, Dave, to my strength coach. He's in the corner. He was the bucket man. He goes, Dave, he goes, my phone's out the back. He goes, get your phone out and film this. He goes, they're doing that thing that they do. And then he goes, this is mad. He filmed it. And they're like, Mikey. And I'm just standing there, and I'm an emotional person. I start tearing up. And because in the Māori culture, it's such a big thing to have that done for you. Me growing up, I've never had that done for me. I've only seen it at funerals, at birthdays where it's like 50th birthdays, 60ths. The last time I saw a haka in person was at a 90th. It was when I went to New Zealand in February 2020, and I got the chance to do it for somebody that was turning 90. So I got so emotional because I was just thinking to myself, they're doing that for me. Like, and yeah, it was just the whole build up to it too. Like the weeks of training, me battling the demons here, and then getting the result I wanted, and having my family do that for me. I was like, wow. And I was tearing up. And my mum being there didn't help either. Yeah. My mum's never been to a fight, but she got forced by her sister to come watch me that was coming. She goes, I'm coming all the way from Wollongong, you better go. And my mum was there. Lucky I saw her after the fight. That made me tear up like that. Yeah. Yeah. Best night bar of my life. That was a mad night.
And look, you know, the guy that you fought is experienced as well, like Ashley Rosen. I actually commentated one of his previous fights at SFC. So I knew he was an experienced competitor, and it was interesting because you both had very different styles.
Very different,
right? And I think I in my commentary I was commenting.
I heard you say that. Yeah, something along those lines. Yeah,
yeah. So like, you know, Ashley's hands were fast, but the difference was that you would use a lot more controls. And I thought, you know, and I think I even saw maybe something you put on Instagram or something like that, and I was. It was funny because it was something that you used in the fight. You know, I think it was basically just whether it was your right hand, you'd frame with your right hand, step forward, and then you would throw off that.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I don't know. There was a lot of things that we trained in the build up, but I swear a lot of that fight was just based off of instinct. I'm not gonna lie. Every boxer says that they got a plan, and every boxer says we drilled this, we drilled that. Yeah. But I'd say not all the fight, but I'd say a big percentage of that fight was done off of instinct. Yeah, because there's noise, and then there's me worrying about impressing people. Yeah, and then I've just come out, and when I put him down, I was surprised when I put him down the first time. I was like, damn, okay, I'm gonna show these guys that it's not just heavyweights that can knock out. I'm gonna go for the first round knockout. And I tried to, it didn't work because he was tough, man, as. Yeah. And like I just.
And then you have to backpedal a little bit so you don't overdo the energy, right? Like you go, oh, okay.
My coach goes with me in the corner. He goes, okay. He goes, the nerves are out. He goes, calm down, mate. Please calm down, Mikey. Please. Composure. Yeah. He goes, be calm. And I was like, okay. Oh, man, I just couldn't believe it. I couldn't even hear his voice. I'm sitting there nodding. I heard like only a few things he said. Yeah, it was so noisy. My family's very crazy.
It's different, right? Like, so if you compare that to some of your amateur bouts, right? Yeah. Generally in your amateur bouts, you can probably hear your corner a little bit better, can't you?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there's no music in the round breaks. Yep. There's barely any crowd. Yep. In the round breaks. And there's like a full tribe. And on my team shirts, it says Sassine Tribe. Yep. And then literally a Sassine tribe there.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the hell?
All right, let's. I want to dial it all the way back, right?
Yeah.
So I always like, trying to understand a little bit more about how people grew up, where you grew up and all that sort of thing. So, for you, if you think back to what your youngest memory would be, what would that be? What do you remember about growing up?
My youngest memory growing up. That's a very good question. I've been asked that before. Youngest memory? What do you mean, like the first, like?
What's the first thing that pops in your head?
First thing that pops in my head, my nan was my best friend.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I was glued to my nan. In the Maldives, if a kid like clings to somebody, they either call him a pawa, and this is like a type of you find pawas in the sea. It's because they cling to the shell. Oh, it cling to the rock or the shell. And I was that for my nan. My nan was my best friend. Even though I never forget. I heard a story my parents told me. One lady picked me up as a baby before my nan, and my nan was dirty at that. Because I'm the youngest grandkid on both sides. But yeah, I was the youngest grandkid on the Māori side, and I was glued to that's what I remember from my childhood. I was glued to my nan. Yeah, she was my best mate. Yeah.
And what was it about her? Was there something about her that, drew you to her? Or?
I don't know, I think she just spoilt me. That's what it was. Spoilt me. She'd defend me with things. Like, I always remember if I was to get in trouble as a kid, which wasn't very, very often. I was a little shit sometimes, but the first place I'd go run into was Nan.
Yeah.
And then she'd get in front of me and my mum, hey, don't you touch my boy. Don't touch my moko, which means grandson in Māori. Don't touch my moko puna. And I was like, yeah, this is the safe place here. That's what I remember a lot of. Other than that, big fan of chocolate.
Yeah. So you always love to eat, even from a young age.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And you know what? I love it even more now because I earn it more, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But do you find for you, does your weight fluctuate between camps?
Not massive. Not massive because
you're more active, right?
I took like a day and a half, 2 days off after this last fight. I'm already back in training. I've been back in training this whole week.
Yep.
Not even for anything, but just for myself.
Yep.
I train for myself first because it makes me feel better.
Yep.
And I just like the challenge
of
training. So but so I can lose weight fast. I can put it on fast.
Yep.
I stay around like the mid-70s. Everyone goes to me, oh man, but you lose it fast. I was like, trust me, I can put it on. I reckon I get to 80 kilos in a week. Easy.
Just eating.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So then, you attached to your gran. What was life like at home?
Good life. Very good. And it's my parents worked hard for what they have.
Yeah. What did they do for work?
My father is a spray painter for cars.
Yep.
And my mum, when she had the two boys, she stopped work for years. But back in the days, there was this airline called Ansett Airlines. It was a domestic plane
Australian airline.
Australian airline, exactly. And my mum was one of the managers for Ansett Air Freight for 15 years or something.
Wow.
And then, once that went, my father's a good man. He never wanted my mum to work anyways. At the moment, though, my mum, she works currently. She works at an embroidery place, but does their accounts and stuff like that.
Okay.
Shout out Southern Embroidery. They did all my shirts for me.
Oh, nice.
For the fights.
Nice.
So she's been with Vulla from Southern Embroidery for a while now.
Yep.
But my dad, he's that much of a good man. He still doesn't want my mum to work. He's like, no, you don't have to work.
Yeah.
But my mum loves working, loves it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, your dad being a spray painter, he would have always come home, dirty hands, the rest of it, the whole works, right?
Yeah. Well, this is what my parents were always telling me since I was a kid. Son, you don't have to do this to say you're a man. Like, you don't have to do this for work, or you don't have to do that. You do what you want to do.
Yeah.
My mum always wanted me, she goes, son, you got to work in an office and have a clean job.
Yeah.
And I was like, what's a clean job? What do you mean a clean job? I like working.
Yeah.
I feel like I get bored sitting down.
Yeah. It's funny, isn't it? So then in primary school, what kind of a kid were you? So how would your teachers describe you?
My teachers would describe me as that kid with so much potential.
Yeah.
I was never the big problem in the class, but let's just say I didn't make the situation better if there was something going wrong. I'd be that kid that'd be sitting there laughing at something that's going off.
Yeah.
I wasn't the worst kid, but I just didn't make the situation any better.
Yeah.
I was always good with public speaking in school. I won a few public speaking awards, like with writing my own speeches and that.
Mate, you're killing it. You're doing really well.
Yeah, if you can't tell, public speaking, that's my thing. I haven't shut up this whole time. Yeah, public speaking was good. Maths was always my biggest problem. I was terrible at maths.
Okay.
Still not my best, but I'm better now at maths because I'm always weighing up counting my calories, weighing my food, counting my kilometers that I'm running. Weird. But yeah, I was always good at English. English and music was my thing.
Okay.
So yeah, always.
And so music-wise, what instrument do you play?
I play the guitar.
Okay.
Play the guitar. I used to play a bit of drums. Okay. I can play the ukulele. And I used to, believe it or not, I used to sing in school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, no one wow, that's out there now, which is good.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I used to sing in school quite a bit. I used to have a group with 2 of my mates in high school, and this was at Peakhurst High. Never sang in primary school, but yeah, we went to Peakhurst High, and they used to just say, I swear the school was on a budget because they used to say, oh, we can't hire any entertainment. Just get the Islander group to sing with the white boy. I swear. And then me and my 2 mates would used to sing at every assembly, and they were clapping. Yeah. So they only knew Mikey for footy now and singing here and there. Yeah. So that guy with a lot of potential does it, but he's not confident. That was me.
Okay. And so where do you think this no confidence thing comes from? Is it just pure, like, I guess when you were young, when you were a kid, were you already lacking confidence then, or do you think that was only because of the eating and when you started to put on the weight after the collarbone injury?
I think it all helps with it because but I think now the confidence thing is because I listen to people too much. I feel like every time someone's confident, they go, oh, he's cocky. Then every time someone's too humble, they go, oh, he's got no balls. Yeah. And then when someone's in the middle, they say, oh, he's boring. So it's just this whole me fitting certain expectations of people and stuff like that, you know. And I feel like that's a problem with myself, is that I'm always trying to do I'm trying to fit these stereotypes when really nah, I need to think to myself, just have a good balance between it all, and just be your own thing. Well, which as of the last, let's say, year or so, I'm actually sort of proud of myself because I've been drifting off into my own sort of category. I feel
that's actually a sign of maturity, right? Because I think, you know, when we're younger, we have this sense of we're trying to work out who we are in this world, and when we're trying to work out who we are in this world, we look to the people that we aspire to be. Yeah, we look at the people that we don't want to be anything like, and we go, okay, well, we want to be more like that, and we go, okay, what do those people do? And you sort of emulate what those people do, and you look at the people that you don't want to be like, and you go, oh, what do those people do? What do I need to avoid doing? And throughout that process, you're trying to meet everybody else's expectations because you haven't really worked out what your own are. And then you get to this point where once you start to realize that, hey, okay, you know, you might have friends that might like to go out and party. That might not be the life that you want to live. Yeah. Right. So it's like, oh, partying's not for me. I'd rather go and train. Right. So then straight away, it's like, you know, then you start to get, that's when you're starting to form these expectations on your own self to go and say, okay, that's not really me. That's not really me. This is a bit more me. And you start to find who you are. And then it's about, you know, sticking to those priorities, because at the end of the day, you know, when you go home at night, the only person that is with you when you're lying with your head down on your pillow is your own brain. Yeah. And that's the one that's going to beat you up if you didn't do the right thing.
100%.
Right?
And I feel like that thing about the whole, some people party, some people do this, some people do that, some people do this. I feel like that's what motivates me to stay on track with my stuff, is because I feel like a lot of people that's around my age, they do the whole like, I don't know, they do certain things because others do it. They follow trends. Yep. And I'm just trying to stay in my own lane. That's pretty much it. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah. Look, I think it's a trap, you know, that you find, and I often talk about this, especially because I've reflected a lot about it, is that, you know, when you're a kid, you've always typically, so I'm generalizing here, right? Like, you know, I'm generalizing for somebody who's got parents alive and things like that. I'm not talking about orphans and things like that, but generally speaking, you know, a kid will have their parents, or maybe a sibling, or a few siblings, depending on their family, or their grandparents. They'll have somebody there. Yeah. And then they get older, they become an adult, or let's say even they become a teenager. They've got their friends, and their friends sort of replace their parents. You know, they don't want to hang out with mum and dad as much, but they want to hang out with their mates, and they start learning from their friends. You know, when we're young, we learn from our parents, then we learn from our friends. As we get older, and in our teenage years, we sort of learn from our friends, and we become these young adults that we're then, you know, not quite sure who we are because we've spent all this time learning from everybody else. We haven't really had any time to sort of learn from ourselves. Mm-hmm. And then for most people, it's like they get to this point where maybe they move out of home, right? And they move out of home and they either spend all their time outside of home, so they're not actually, at a home, like they moved out, but they're always partying or they're out and they're doing other things, that they never really have to sit there and spend time with themselves. And for some people, it's actually pretty scary to spend time with yourself because you might realize, I don't fucking like the person that's here with me, right? And it's yourself. Like, you can't escape from yourself. But the escape is, like if I've got my friends or I've got other people I can hang out with, I don't need to confront myself and work out what are the issues with myself, right? So, the problem with that is that, we go through this, if you go through that stage of life and you never really get comfortable with being by yourself and being with you as your own person, later on, if you're blessed enough to find a relationship, then if you've never addressed any of those demons, then how is that other person supposed to know who you are, right? If you're not even comfortable liking yourself, how is that other person supposed to love who you are?
Yeah.
Right? So it's one of those things that I think is really important as a part of like everybody's life as they sort of grow and mature is, how comfortable are you with the person that you are? Because if you can't sit in an empty room by yourself and just be with your own thoughts and be like, I do love myself, right?
Yeah.
I don't mean that in an egotistical way. I just mean in the way that I'm comfortable in my own skin, that I can be by myself and be in my own thoughts, and my own thoughts aren't trying to kill me,
100%.
right? Because, everybody's had those demons. When I was growing up as well, it's like, you always got these insecurities.
Yeah.
And, you're not good enough at this, or, you're not smart enough, or you're not this, or you're not athletic enough, or you're not whatever, right? And you have all this chatter going on in your own mind, all this self-doubt.
Yeah.
Right? And then, if you never be at peace with all that self-doubt, that just comes out in other ways, comes out in your friendships, comes out in your relationships. So you take it out on other people because you're not good enough. Jealousy is that emotion that is driven from your own sense of self-worth. If you're jealous of somebody else, it means that you feel that you're lacking in something, and that's why you project that jealousy onto somebody else.
Yeah.
Right? So I guess, as you're sort of going through this in your own life and your boxing career, it's really important to have that sort of clarity around, what it is that you're comfortable with, and who's the person that's looking back at you in the mirror, and, are you comfortable with the decisions that you're making, and, what are the things that you want to get involved with and all that sort of thing, because, lots of guys don't get that opportunity, right? You might go on and become really ultra successful, and you never have to spend any time by yourself.
Yeah.
Just use money and surround yourself with nice things and nice people and nice cars. But then, as every person who has hit a certain pinnacle has found out, is that, the friends are fast and they disappear fast too. If the success isn't there, I think a few fighters have commented, how quickly the fans are to sort of turn on you when
a few times.
Yeah, when things don't go your way. But at the end of the day, it also depends on how much does that add value to your life. Like, I guess, it is important to, and so by putting yourself out there, it's a great thing for you and your career, because you need people to have eyeballs. You need the eyeballs. You need the, for lack of a better word, the clout, so that people want to tune in and watch you fight, because that's going to help you to get paid.
Absolutely.
Right? But, it's a double-edged sword. If you start thinking that those eyeballs determine how much you are worth as a person, well, that's the negative aspect. Because when the eyeballs start to disappear, then you go, oh, maybe I'm not as good as what I thought I was.
Yeah.
Right? So that's one of the things I think is really, and it's not just important in fighting, it's important in any endeavor in life. Like, if you think about a career, and if we say a career that's not in combat sports, if you're trying to establish yourself in working, I don't know, in any industry, right? If you don't have any sense of your own value, then you'll never get paid what you think you're worth.
Wow, that's a quote. Say that again. If you never
have any sense of your own value, you will never get what you're worth. Right?
Write that down. Yeah, man, I like that.
if I don't know what I'm worth, and then somebody goes, "Oh, I'll pay you $100," you go, okay. What if you're worth 1,000? What if you're worth 10,000?
Yeah.
What, and then some people might go, if you put a number on it, and then they don't like that number, and you go, okay, I think I'm worth $10,000, and they say, I'm not going to pay you $10,000, and then it's like, well, if you truly believe it that you're worth $10,000, you go, okay, you're not worth my time anyway. But if you didn't believe it, then you go, oh, well, what do you think I'm worth? You see?
Yeah.
And so this is why it's very important that you have your own sense of self-value. And the only time that you're going to actually be able to develop that sense of self-value is by being with yourself, right? Because you can't have somebody else tell you what you're worth, because then you're only ever going to be at the ceiling of what they think of you.
Yeah.
But as in combat sports, people only see, oh, Mikey's got this fight on. Oh, he's won a fight, or he might have lost a fight, whatever the case may be. They see this little tip of the iceberg. They don't
exactly tip of the iceberg. They don't see what goes into it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I feel like I fought weeks, maybe months before I actually got to the fight. Ages. My dad fought the fight before the fight was even happening. He was fighting with me because apparently I was moody when I was dieting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't put it past myself. I probably was. And then there's the cutting the weight too.
Yeah.
You get moody with that too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my dad gets how it is to be on a diet because he used to be a bodybuilder.
Yep.
So yeah, he just says to me, "Oh, the diet's working." I go to him, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Yeah, because you're pissed off." And I was like, "He's right." Yeah.
Yeah. So like I was helping to corner a couple of the boys from my kickboxing gym. It's probably like maybe a month ago now, or maybe 2 months now. And one of the boys had a pretty big weight cut.
Yeah.
So I wanted to vlog it, and I didn't really want to show exactly how difficult it was.
Yeah.
But I wanted to give people a sense of how that it's not all roses when you go and do these sorts of endeavors. Like, people just really underestimate how difficult cutting weight can be. And depending on the size of the weight cut, and look, he had a big weight cut because that particular tournament was being fought at that weight. So to be a part of it, well, he had to make that weight, right? And it's a great opportunity for his career. So from a springboard perspective, it's yielded him another big fight now, which is great. Yeah. So sometimes you have to take those opportunities. He didn't get the result that he wanted, but it's that, and that's why I say, it doesn't matter, win or lose, there's still going to be another opportunity that's going to come afterward anyway. So, yeah, I just thought, it was probably a good time. We talked about some of those things, but let's sort of then talk about the music, because I'm curious, how did did your parents send you lessons, or how did you pick it up?
Okay. Back on the Māori culture. In the Māori culture, it's a thing at whether it's family get-togethers, a funeral, a birthday. Your family, someone from the family represents them as a whole.
Yep. And
they get up and they say something, right?
Yep.
It's like how you have speeches at weddings and stuff like that. And it's just a thing. Okay, they go, "Sing for us." It's just something that runs in that culture is music. And, my mum used to get up, or my nan used to get up. And you know what? When I was a little kid, my natural personality, I was a natural performer. I used to pull my mum's shirt and say, "Hey, Mum, is it my turn yet?" When I was a babe, when I was a little 4 or 5 year old kid. And I used to say to her, "Is it my turn yet?"
Yep.
"For what, son? Do you want to say something?" "No, is it my turn to sing?" Because at the end of when someone says something in the Māori culture, they do a musical item, they do a dance, they do something.
Yep.
Whether it may be haka, sing, or dance. It's just something. Yep. Always. Weird. So I was brought up around a lot of music, whether it be we're just even driving somewhere. It was the certain type of music that my mum used to listen to and still does. I don't know. I was amazed, and I like music as well. But it's just a thing that I think runs in my blood, and my mum can sing too. My mum can sing, and yeah, I think it just runs in that family. Maybe I learnt off them. I don't know, but it just happened. I never got any lessons or anything.
So then, when it came to picking up the musical instruments, who taught you how to play the chords?
YouTube.
Okay, yeah. So that's
YouTube, but like a lot of it was, I learned really the basics off of YouTube. I learned how to tune a guitar off YouTube.
Yep.
But everything else was pretty much just learnt by ear.
Yep.
My year 7 music teacher, I'll never forget his name ever. And he left that year. That was his last year. His name's Josh Holloway. I was maybe 11, 12, and he was playing this guitar, and I already knew how to sing, and he was playing this guitar in class, and I was like, that guy is the coolest dude. He had this long hair. He was just playing this, and I saw the effect he had on people.
Yeah.
Right. And he was just getting it. It was like a magnet. He got everybody's attention just off of a few sounds that he played on the guitar. He was so talented. And I said to him, sir, can you play this? I was just seeing if, and I threw on one of my favorite reggae songs.
Yeah.
Okay. And he just picked it up like it was nothing by ear. And I was like, you know what? The effect that man had on this class, I'd love to just have half of that. So we're walking through Kmart, and my dad goes to me, yeah, oh, you don't want anything today, surprising me. And I was like, oh, Dad, I said, see that there? I was walking around this, it was a $50 guitar, maybe 40. I said, can I get that? And he goes to me, this is just going to be another phase, isn't it? He goes, this is going to be something that you just get and you throw it out. I said, no, I want to learn how to play guitar. And he goes to me, okay, get it. I still to this day have my first ever guitar. It's the best one I got, believe it or not. And I've had expensive guitars. Best guitar I got is the Kmart one.
Okay.
Shout out Kmart.
Is it? So it's just an acoustic, right?
Acoustic
Nylon string,
guitar.
steel string.
It was a steel string, but I chucked nylons on it because I like the sound on nylon
Yeah,
strings,
softer.
and it's softer on the fingers too.
Yeah.
And yeah, I learned how to tune it off YouTube. Then I start taking notice of the certain sounds, and then I look at the finger positioning for a couple chords that one teacher was playing. And about a couple weeks later, I said to him, hey, sir, I know how to play guitar. And in front of the whole class, you know, teachers don't usually swear, but he was shocked. He goes, Mikey, bullshit. And I go, no, I do know how to play guitar. I said, chuck me that thing. And everyone was like, oh, wow, Sassine, he knows how to play guitar. And my head just went like that. And I got addicted to everyone that says that they don't like attention. And I don't like it, but that feeling of me having effect on people, I was like, wow, this is my thing now.
Yeah.
I started playing guitar, and then so they already sort of knew I could sing, but it's just something they generalize with, oh yeah, the Islanders, they know how to sing.
Yeah.
So I was singing with a couple of the boys in the class. They're like, oh, we should get you guys to perform one day. About a month later, we performed at school. And again, that feeling of having people stand up and clap for me, I was like, wow, this is cool.
What a feeling.
I know. And that was like the first step out of this whole humble persona that I was trying to hold on to always. You know, and I'm still holding on to it a little bit now, but I'm steps away from where I was back then, I feel. But I guess that's life.
But when you say that humble persona, do you mean that from the perspective you're trying to keep yourself humble, or you thinking of that from the perspective of you just don't want to come out of your shell? Like
that. Yeah. Because I feel like there's a difference between humble and that, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can be humble but still talk yourself up, and which is what I'm trying to keep trying to remind myself that I can always be humble, but you know, I can back myself when it matters. That's credit where credit is due.
Yep.
You know, even if I was to do something, I'd say, oh nah. Like my father goes to someone the other day, oh yeah, because he goes, how was your weekend? He goes, oh, my son just fought. And I was like, I'm kicking him under the table. I'm like, stop. Yeah. When really it's the truth. He's just saying the truth. I did fight. Yeah. You know? But yeah, I don't know. It's just, I'm still working on it, but working on it.
Well, okay. So here's some thoughts for you, right? Confidence comes from within. Okay. And if you look at the people who seem to have, and I'm not talking about bravado, right? Like, because there's a difference between confidence and bravado, or arrogance, right? People who have like this aura of being so sure of who they are comes across in a very polite way. Like, it's a very nice, reassuring feeling. And I guess the way that I'd sort of, how I'd equate that is like, you know, when you have a conversation with someone, it feels like, oh, you know, there's no deception in it. Like, the person is very transparent about who they are and what they're kind of a person they are. You don't come away from that interaction feeling like, oh, I don't know if I can trust this guy, you know? And sometimes you might come away from a conversation, you feel like I feel like I can really trust this guy. And then you might go, oh, maybe I need to rethink it because he's too smooth as an operator, right? But I think when you look at people that have this sort of like quiet confidence that comes from within, it actually always, maybe change that word. Instead of saying always, I would generally say it comes from a place of faith. And why I would say that is because no there is not one person in this world who could be so sure of themselves in every single thing that they do that they could have the confidence to be like, okay, you know, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, right?
Yeah.
There might be people out there who think they have that sort of confidence, but the moment you get tested, well, that confidence shatters, right? And I think everybody's been in that situation. And like if you fought or you sparred, and the first time anybody sparred, right? That is the moment where whatever confidence you had gets shattered, right? But when you have like this sense of faith, this belief, I feel like that is what makes your confidence unshakable. And I don't know whether you're religious or whatever at all. I'm not. It doesn't necessarily need to be from a religious perspective, but I think when I sort of look at people who have this real sense of confidence in who they are and this belief, I feel like some people can get there, you know, having this really strong belief in themselves, but the ones with the unshakable confidence usually draw it from above. I don't know. What do you think?
It's funny you say that. I don't know. I feel like I'm at a point in my life now where I got a good balance between confident and, you know, trying to stay humble. I don't know. There's a voice. You know what? To sum up everything that I've said, you know, I probably wouldn't have jumped in the ring last week if I didn't really back myself. There is a voice somewhere that's telling me, you know what? You can do this. Yeah. There is a voice there telling me that. But I do have, about the religious thing, I do pray. I do have faith. I do have faith in God that God's got a plan for me, of course. But yeah, let's just say this: I'm working on it. Yeah. Look,
it's interesting because, you know, I was chatting with another or kickboxing fighter, Tully. Yeah. Shout out to Tully. He trains out of VT1, but you know, I asked him about, you know, what were his thoughts on that, and he was like, no, like, because he was raised as a Catholic. Okay. But for him, it's like it's him, you know, that sort of his confidence comes from, you know, his training and all that sort of stuff. And I think, you know, those things are great. Like, they will absolutely give you confidence. But I don't know. The more I think about it, it's like, so there's this what do they call it? Like, I guess, you know, a section of the Bible called Ecclesiastes. I don't know if you ever heard of it.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
But basically, they talk about how everything is vanity. And I'm a bit obsessed with this particular part of the Bible at the moment. So for me, I didn't grow up Christian or anything like that. I was actually Buddhist.
Okay.
Well, more Buddhist, I should say. And so, you know, for me, I sort of view religion as these lenses that you can sort of view the world from, and they help to shape your perspective. And I guess the way that I view, well, what is truth then? Well, truth means that you can take different perspectives, and you should still see the object for what it is. So as an example, you know, if I've got a cup, whether you're looking at it from where you sit or you look at it from where I sit, we both go, okay, well, that's a mug.
Yeah.
Right? We can both concurrently agree that, okay, well, that's what we see. Right? But if we look at something that, you know, isn't so obvious, you know, what you might see from your perspective might be different to what somebody else might see from their perspective.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's what it's allowed me to do is to really sort of think about some of these concepts from all of these different religions to sort of inform, well, what is my worldview, right? And so I'm still going through this whole process at the moment. But I guess, you know, part of that is, you know, I never read the Bible, so I'm doing this thing at the moment where I'm listening to the Bible, and this whole thing about Ecclesiastes came up. And why I bring it up is because it's funny. I had this experience on a psychedelic drug called mescaline, and it's like a.
Never heard of that before.
So mescaline is like you know, from cactus.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's made from a cactus essentially, and so I guess American Indians. I don't know what I'm supposed to call them anymore. Like, what's the correct term? But I guess, you know, American Indians.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. It'll be part of like one of their rituals of, you know, like, I guess, you know, they might call it peyote or something like that, or one of those sort of rituals. And anyway, when you take this substance, it was a very eye-opening experience for me. Like, I didn't take it because I just wanted to get high or something like that. I actually took it with a specific set of questions in mind. And it was all to do with, you know, I guess faith and, God and these sorts of kind of really heavy sort of questions that a lot of people don't like talking about.
Yeah.
And when I basically the night that I was doing it, I said to my wife said to me, "Oh, if you meet God, tell him I said hi." She's a devout
Something I'd say.
she's a devout Catholic, right?
Yep.
And so anyway, I go and lie down and listen to some music, and for those of you guys who listen to the podcast, I apologize. You probably heard this story a few times now, but
I haven't heard it.
But Mikey hasn't, so he gets
Don't
to listen.
worry.
Anyway, so what happens when you take this substance? So I guess if you want to think about it from the physiological side, is that it causes you to have some paralysis.
Wow. Yeah.
So like, for me, what that meant was like I would have muscle spasms, right? So I'd be like, you can imagine like going like this, like spasming, right? Yeah.
Slapping someone in the... No, I'm kidding.
No, so I'm lying on the bed having these spasms, right? And so what sort of happens is like I get this image of like, so you imagine like a lake, like still lake, the water's still.
Uh-huh.
And, you just think, if you were to touch the middle of that lake, what's going to happen? It's going to create these ripples, right? And so, you see that imagery of the ripples starting. And then the thing is that because there's no edges to this lake, the ripples just keep going and going and going and going and going, right? It's like your mind's exploding, right? Like that's essentially what's happening at that point in time. Anyway, so then that was like the ticket to the zone, and away you go. And I guess the experience for me was like, it was like I would go and live a life, and so go through. You'd see images of like childbirth or whatever, like you name it, whatever you can experience in life, you go and see all the images that relate to experiencing a life.
Yeah.
And as the ripples keep moving out, and then basically you die.
Yeah.
Right? And it'd be still again. And like, so I'd like to be a point where I'm not spasming, and then the spasms will start again. And then it's like, okay, you're living another life. And it could be a different life. Like now you're a girl, now you're this, now you're that, right? It's mind blowing, right? And so
far out.
So then you go and live this second life, and then you die.
Yep.
And now you imagine this happened to you 10,000 times, because that's how it felt. Like I felt like I lived and died 10,000 times. And you're like,
Did you get addicted to that stuff? If
No.
you don't mind me asking. Oh no.
You never want to do it again.
Oh yeah. Well, I wouldn't want to do that again either. Sounds like you've lived 100 years in this bloody. Whatever.
One experience,
Yeah,
right?
one experience.
Yeah, so it was one of those things. Like it's like I'm grateful that I did it, but it's one of those things. It's like I don't wish it on anyone.
Yeah,
like,
of course.
Isn't that a weird feeling?
Oh man,
right? Like you think that it was very profound, I guess, from that perspective. Like long story short, what happened is like I ended up waking up at like say 2:30, and I started going through like my brain was like ticking with all of these different rationalizations of what was going on and things like that. And so I grabbed my phone and I started typing all these notes. So I got like this really long set of notes relating to the experience and all the different things that I felt. And then, like I sort of like had this, I guess it was like an epiphany. Like, people talk about experiencing the Holy Spirit or God's love. And for me, like I'd never really understood what that experience would be like. Like I don't know if anyone that's gone to church might have seen like people bursting into tears and that sort of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so, when at the end of this whole sort of rationalization kind of thing, it sort of, it brought me to this point of trying to understand, what is God's love, right? And then the point was that, like, if you were God and you'd live for however long, infinite amount of years, your existence and my existence shouldn't really matter. Like we're maybe 100 years in the drop of a million, a trillion. Like we're a tiny speck. We're insignificant.
Yeah.
Right. And, but I guess, from that perspective, the reason why he gives us life is so that you and I can experience all these joys, the highs, the lows, this whole gambit of experiences in a lifetime. And so it doesn't mean anything to him, but it means the world to us. And that was, that's his, I guess, his way of showing us his love, right? And I guess, so why this sort of resonates for me with Ecclesiastes is because when you go and live 10,000 lives, you realize that life doesn't really seem to have much meaning anymore, because whether you're rich and you die, or you're poor and you die, or you're whatever, you still die.
Yeah.
Everybody dies. Nobody escapes death,
Yeah.
right? So, you know, so I guess, you know, that's why I think a lot about that from that perspective, in the sense that, you know, if there isn't anything more than death, well, there's not really much else to life.
True.
And so that's, I guess, you know, where I was going with this whole Ecclesiastes thing. We went on a massive tangent. I apologize, especially if I lost people, right? And but yeah, like it's just one of those things that I've been thinking a lot about, because, you know, I think, and as you know, when you fight, like, you know, I've got this fight coming up, right? And then I had like all these people messaging me, and it's like, you know, like for people that fight, it's like you're just like, hey, it is what it is, like, and then you know, people want to, and I get, like, you know, maybe they're surprised or they're happy or whatever, like they sort of, it's like they latch onto the things that you're going through, and I don't mean latching into in a bad way. I think it's like they want to be part of the journey too.
Of course, yeah,
right?
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, and I think it's great, but like at the same time, you know, I think for people that fight, you sort of also get to depending on where you're at with it, you also feel like it adds pressure, or, you know, like it not changes, but like it adds to any weight that you might be feeling from it.
Yeah.
And
I
for
think
me,
it takes a fighter to understand what you're just saying too.
Yeah.
You know, no, you can't just go up to anyone and say, I feel nervous. And 9 times out of 10, and it's only because they care, the people that come to support me, they're saying, oh, don't be nervous, you got this. It's because they're meant to say that. But I feel like it takes another fighter or another performer that's on a big level, big stage, right, in front of people that understand the anxiety in the build-up, or understand the nerves, or hear, you know, if that makes sense. I feel like it just takes someone that's been there to understand it. It's crazy.
Yeah. And so, like, you know, I've definitely felt, you know, the nerves and things like that before, but this time around it's been interesting because it's been different. Like, I'm not really phased. I don't feel any nervousness. I don't feel, what's the right way to put it? It's like I don't feel anything. Like, it's just, it is what it is.
I was about to say that. It is what it is.
Yeah. And so, you know, I just, it's very interesting because whenever I talk to different guys that are in the sport, or girls that are in the sport, you know, everybody's got a slightly different perspective on it. And, you know, for the ones that feel nervous, I always say to them, you know, what's the difference between nerves and excitement? It's the same feeling.
I feel like I get a lot of my nerves because you know what it is as well? I'm a very, very, very competitive person. I'm one of the most competitive people I know. Like, if I play someone in cards, I'm winning. I got to win.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
does that apply to everything though?
Nearly everything.
Okay, so I'll give you a scenario. Give you a scenario. If you were playing, I don't know, some kind of game, some kind of ball game in the park with like little cousins and things like that, would you smash them?
No, not that far. It depends which little cousins it is. Like, you know what? So that older cousin I was talking about before, pretty much one of my best mates, my older cousin. He's got young boys.
Yeah. So he'd smash them.
Not smash them, but he always tells me, hey Mikey, cuz, don't give him any chance to win. And I always think to myself, you know what? One day these kids are going to flog me, so I might as well take advantage of it here. And it's good to teach them too.
Yeah.
So them, here and there, I'll take a dub off them, but I don't know. Now, with little kids, I'll always let them win. Yeah. You know? But like when it comes to just, if someone wants to play me cards, I'm in. Let's go. Yeah. Let's go. I don't know. Everybody hates losing. I don't believe anybody likes losing. Yeah. No way. Some people can accept it better than others, that's all. Yeah. 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 I think that just doesn't help with my nerves, is the fact that I'm so competitive. Yeah. That's why. But every time I just keep reminding myself, the people that are here, like the people that were just there on the Friday last week, they're there. Like I know everybody very well, the ones that were there for me. I got a big family. Those ones there, they're just there because they're proud of me. That's it. They don't care about the win. I know if I had fallen short that night, none of them would have cared. I can't name one in that crowd that would have actually gave a shit. They would have just said, we're proud of you, and they would have hugged me. Yeah. That's it. Then we would have got Macca's after. Yeah.
Macca's or KFC?
I'm a KFC fan, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know what? If I had eaten lettuce just straight up like an apple after that fight, it would have tasted so good. Because it was just to just finish the night off.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk a little bit more about high school. So obviously we talked about the music side of things.
Yep. Oh, we did. Yeah. Wow. We've gone right into detail. Eh? Nice. Yeah, I like it. Okay.
So yeah, so I'm guessing the ukulele was the same thing. Taught yourself off YouTube.
Yeah, no, to be honest, I mean, I watched someone playing. One of my best mates. Shout out Techie. Okay, I saw him playing ukulele when I was like 10 years old. I saw how simple it was.
Yeah.
Some chords that you play, you only need one finger. And I just thought to myself, I remember he put his finger in that part of the, played it, sounded good. And I was, you can just hear it. And I was like, okay. So I learned ukulele probably about a year after I started playing guitar.
Yeah.
And then I learned that and I was like, okay, this is the same as that. I just saw a few finger positions that other people did and I just copied it off that. Okay. Pretty much. It's pretty simple. Pick up the chords.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. And then, you know, when you were in high school, did you have any ideas what you wanted to do after high school?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. And, you know, that's another thing with the whole anxiety and nerves. And, you know, my culture is stereotyped by society to be on a job site, to be on work. Shout out to the trade. That's mad. That's cool. But, like, I feel like just my two cultures, they're just stereotyped into being in certain employment types. You know, they're not looked at to be seen in an office. They're not there. So I was always feeling pressure to do a certain type of job. And really the only reason why I stayed in school all the way through to year 12, even though I used to say it was to get my high school certificate. No, it wasn't. I just didn't know. I would have pulled out in year 10 if I had known what I wanted to do. But I didn't. I was just buying myself time to find something I have passion for.
Yep.
And I just didn't know until right at the end what I actually wanted to do.
Yep.
Yeah.
So then what were the subjects that you did in year 12?
All non-ATAR subjects.
So what were they?
I did music.
Yeah.
I did hospitality, like food and bev. No, not food and bev. It was just food tech.
Okay.
I did sports coaching and PE.
Okay.
Oh no. I dropped which one did I drop? I dropped one of them and then I was doing music as well.
Okay.
So yeah. I did music. To be honest, I love music, but I did it because it was a bludge. Like I said, I was just buying time to get through school.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't a bad student, but I just was feeling the pressure. Everybody at school had their life sorted before they graduated. I swear.
I think it's that's just what you feel.
I felt everybody did. Everybody used to always say, like, they used to find me as I swear I'm like an interesting person. Like, they used to always ask me all these questions.
Yeah.
Oh, Mikey, what are you doing after school? And I never forget one time I got sick of that question. I said to this dude, I said, you know what? I said, you know what I'm going to do after I finish school? He goes, what are you going to do? He was interested. And I go, I'm going to live life. He goes, what do you mean live life? I said, I'm going to live. Did you know that? Yeah, I'm going to be alive. He goes, I don't understand. And I was like, you're only telling me what you're only asking me this question.
You can tell me
because you want to tell me what you're doing.
Yeah.
I said, you just do you, mate. And I didn't know what I wanted to do like till right at the end, like at the end.
Yeah.
I was already working part-time in a job.
Yep. So what are you doing?
Since year 10. Yeah, late year 9. So I was working in retail up until about, when? I was working retail till about like the beginning of year 12, which was 2020, early 20. Then the shop I was working in shut down. It was a shop in Marrickville. It was this little $2 shop. It was called Tex.
Okay.
I worked there since I was 14 and a half, 15. And then that closed down, and I started to work a bit in the warehousing game. I was emptying containers, pick packing, you know, a job that again, it fits the stereotype. And I was working with a lot of distant relations and stuff. It was actually mad. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And I was thinking to myself, I'm gonna leave school now.
Yeah, just make money.
12, make money. This was good. I was happy. But then, towards the end of the year, I had because we were locked down in 2020.
Yep.
And I had my first, so I fought in February, had the whole year off. And even in lockdown, I was still working and at school and whatever. And then I fought in December 2020, first fight since that February that year. And then I thought to myself, how the hell did I win this fight? I was cooked. Like, my body was that sore. I had worked a full week, the week of the fight.
Yeah.
And I said to myself, I'm lucky I won today.
Yeah.
if I want to give this boxing thing a good, because that's what I got passion for. I was working not because I have passion for, who has passion for emptying containers? Seriously.
Yeah.
So I thought to myself, if I'm going to give this boxing thing a good crack, I can't keep doing this. I can't. And then so my cousin's wife said to me, you should be a youth mentor or a teacher's aide. I go, what's that? She goes, you ever remember you were at primary school and there was always that extra hand in the class? I said, no. She goes, I did, but like I just didn't know that was a job.
Yeah.
She goes, you should do that. She goes, you're natural with kids. Because I've always worked with children. Like since I was about 14, I coached junior footy too.
Yep.
With my footy club.
Yeah.
The footy club I'm still involved with. I've been there for about 15 years of my life.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, it's a big part of my life, this footy club, Newtown Junior Jets. And she said to me, you're just so natural with working with children. She goes, and she's one of the Indigenous coordinators, so she's like big into the youth work. I didn't understand how much this job is like it's important, because some of these kids need that mentor.
Yeah.
You know, to put them on. And by no means, I'm not saying I'm someone that people should listen to. Not at all. I'm still trying
to work out.
I'm
who
still
you're
working
doing.
out everything. I'm just playing. I'm just
100%.
playing it by ear.
And
you know?
everybody is.
Yeah.
Right? They just.
She said, you'd be a natural at that job. She goes, listen, I'll give you some schools that you can consider. Put me as a reference on your resume, whatever. I was like, yep. Anyways, I didn't think, so I put it on she goes, you got your working with children check through footy. You got your first aid ticket. She goes, that's enough. She goes, there is a teacher's aiding course, but you can go down as a youth mentor too in schools. I was like, cool. And then I thought to myself, you know what? I've left this job emptying containers. I'm not going to go back to doing that. I'm going to go plan B. Plan B was to go to, because I got bumped back by 4 schools. So I was like, wait, no, I'm not going to go back to emptying containers, and that ship sailed. So I'm going to go to TAFE, get my cert in fitness, and then I'll work at a F45 or something. Yep. And then I was about a month into my TAFE course, and then I got a call back from this school in East Hills. And they said, we got this young boy, 3 hours a week. No, 3 hours a day, 3 days a week, casual work. And I was like to myself, nah, I'm going to go back to the containers. This is useless. What am I going there for? And then my parents said to my mum, she's smart. Shout out, mum. She goes to me, son, just get your foot in the door. You never know. If it doesn't work, then you can always go back to working with your cousins. She goes, but just try it. She goes, just try it. You never know. If they knock you back, you can just, because I was always afraid of rejection. I went to this school and, you know, they started seeing how I work with kids. And I honestly think that I just had a good relationship with the kids, because kids, if they see someone that's a teenager, because I was 18 when I first started, they were like, how old are you? I was 18. They were like, oh, what? So, yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's because I was just yesterday's kid. And me being, I'm still a kid at heart, seriously. Yeah. Always, when I was growing up, the person that you listen to is the younger person. I don't know why, but it's just because you're trying to be cool with them. The school figured out, okay, he's good with these kids. Let's keep him on. And then now I've been working there full time for the back half of this year. Wow. But I've been working minimum like 3 days a week. So they had me on casual for a while, and then now I'm working full time. And honestly, I wouldn't have it any other way. I love this job.
So you just being a teacher's aide?
Yeah. Yep. Teacher's aide. And yeah, look, it definitely gives me a different opinion, a different perspective on what teaching is as a whole. Yep. Because I had just finished school the year before that I started in working in schools. And I swear I didn't know how much goes into this job until like I'm in it behind the scenes. Yeah. And teachers, like, big respect to the teachers. They put up with so much. They got to plan lessons. They got to mark work. So the job's not even finished when they leave their job. They go home, they plan lessons, they mark work, then they got to put up. By the time they get to bed, then the next day they got to put up with the same headache on the next day. And yeah, I've had a few times at work where I'm just like, oh, this is stressful. I don't usually show them that I'm stressing out, but there's like a thing at the job that I work at. They're like, oh, yeah, Mikey doesn't stress. Wow, he's so calm. And I'm just like, yeah, no, I don't stress. But on the inside, I'm like, oh,
dying.
Now I know how it feels. And I used to always tell myself, man, the universe is, or God's just getting back at you for being a little shit in school. Yeah. But you know what? Like I said, I love my job. It's a mad job.
Have you had any tough nuts to crack kids-wise? Like kids that...
kids are just tough nuts in general, I feel, because they're still learning. Yeah. And people, we're always learning. So I just always remind myself of that. if he's hard to crack, it's number one because he's got a disability, whether it's autism, ADHD, AD. That's who I work with specifically.
Yep. Did you have to do specific training for that though?
Look, I did all my modules through work
Okay.
and whatever on the computer.
Yeah.
Yeah, but just mainly working with there is a Cert 3 that you can go to TAFE in teachers aiding. Done that, so yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just kept reminding myself, hey, you were a kid too. You're still a kid. Just be patient.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah, but my job's mad. I like it, and then I just do like a bit of PT on the side at the gym that I train at.
Yep.
As a side hustle.
Yep.
But yeah, that just pays my petrol in my car, and I do it because I feel like I learn more of training people than when I'm sparring, because I'm like, oh, I made that mistake last week.
Yeah.
Hey, how about you do this?
Yep.
You know, so yeah, bit of PT on the side because I had the Cert 3 to fall back on.
Yep.
Too, and yeah.
Yeah, the teaching thing is when it comes to checking your own understanding, right? You're now forced not only to make sure that you know your stuff well, but that you can articulate it.
100%.
And I think that's where a lot of the learning is because, some people can do it for themselves, but they may not really understand exactly why they do things a certain way.
Yeah.
But when you actually have to slow it down and go, oh, why do I do it this particular way, right? Then you actually start thinking, okay, well, how do I now reverse engineer this? Because, perhaps I'm not doing it 100% the right way, or there might be a way to counter that, and that's where you can start to really think about some of those things. And I think that's where the teaching element is really, really good from that perspective. And for me, I like to watch fights and study them. That's what I do. I'll sit there and it's a bit of how do I put this? It's like a love-hate relationship because I really do enjoy doing it. But then sometimes it gets to the point where it's like I've spent like so long and I'm so invested in this particular study that I just want it to be over with.
Yeah. Too much time on the tools gets you sick of the tools sometimes.
Yeah, like because I remember one study I did. It's like I went so deep, I had watched probably a catalogue of like 30 fights just to put together, the things that I wanted to put together and to really double check my understanding and go back and it was like, oh, why did I do that? Like I didn't need to. It was like overkill, right? And the video is like 4 minutes. It's not like I did like a half an hour video out of it. I've watched like 4 hours worth of content to put together a bloody 5-minute video.
Yeah.
But you just
you're just really into combat sports, are you?
Yeah. Look, so I started training martial arts when I was 5.
Oh wow.
So again, people who listen to the podcast regularly might know this, but
I want to hear it.
I was a sook when I was a kid.
Oh, yeah?
Well, yeah. So when I say I was a sook, it was I would say it was a bit manipulative, right? In the sense, so I've got an older brother. So shout out to my older brother Donnie. But he's 7 years older than me. So for me, I was never really going to get my way. If I tried to muscle it, I had to be smart about it. So the smart way is to, well, if I just cry, I'll get what I want, right? Or I'll get out of doing things that I don't want to do. So I was manipulative from that perspective, and then because a couple of tears and you can get your way. Oh, well, became easy, right? Became the go-to. I don't want to play this game. Oh, okay, we don't play that game anymore, right? Legitimately, right? And so then my mum looked at that and go, oh, he's a bit of a wuss. So we'll send him to karate, and so then did karate, from 5 to 12, and then took a couple of years off when I went to high school, and then picked up kung fu after that, and then spent 20 odd years doing kung fu, and then probably in the last 5 or so years of the kung fu journey, I picked up a whole bunch of different other things. So I do kickboxing, jiu-jitsu, and mixed martial arts. So, but like for me, I wasn't like full time doing martial arts and commentary and all that sort of stuff before. Yeah. I was actually working in the automotive industry. So
oh wow!
So I started. So when I left school, I went to uni.
Yeah.
I studied engineering and law at uni. And so originally my plan was I just wanted to do engineering. Yeah. So my brother studied engineering, and that was sort of like copying him a little bit, I guess. So he did engineering and international studies. And so I did, the only reason I did engineering and law was because I got the marks for it. So it wasn't any particular reason. And I just sort of looked at it from the perspective of my best subjects at school were English and maths. So if you think about law and engineering, it's kind of like doing English and maths. So just keep doing English and maths, right? So went to uni, but then so one of the things that happened for me when I was in my teenage years is my parents went through a very rocky part of their relationship, and my dad did the wrong thing by my mum, and that obviously made things very rocky at home. But then what was the sort of what sort of cracked it was like my mum had a car accident, and what happened was she was driving down the Prospect Highway in Seven Hills, and a high school kid, had like dropped their tennis ball onto the road.
Yeah.
Went chasing after it, and so she hit him, or
shit.
her. I don't know if it was him or her, but I know it was. Yeah, like I wasn't there, right? Like I was in school at the time. I only found out what had happened after, and that was the straw that broke my mum mentally. Because,
it would.
Yeah, long story short, she wasn't at fault. Like she was doing the speed limit. She was just going down the road. This kid's run out in front of her, and she slammed the brakes. But obviously the kid's been hit.
Yeah.
I to this day I don't know what happened to the other kid.
I was just about to ask you, like, if you didn't mind me asking, what happened to him?
I don't know, because it was one of those things that my mum didn't really want to talk about it.
That's a big thing.
Yeah,
very significant moment in your mum's life.
Yeah, and so and I think what was probably really traumatic about it was because I think the kid was okay, but like in the end was okay, but like
that's good.
What had happened was when they've been hit by the car, they've come through the windscreen, and you can imagine a little old lady driving a car, and the kid comes through the windscreen. Like what kind of a shock is that to your system? So what happened from there was that that my mum started to obviously she never got counselling because I guess we never really knew that that's what you do when you have something like that. You try and work through the trauma of that. And all of the emotions that she was feeling in conjunction with, what was going on at home, just, as it would break most people, right?
Yeah.
So she wasn't well. And so what for me, that was basically when I was like year 11, year 12 in high school. So I just, tried to avoid the situation, just, kept studying and don't want to know about it kind of a thing. And then things just started to get really deteriorate at home. When I say that, like, so for anyone that hasn't experienced living with somebody who isn't, well, how that manifested in our household was like things would go missing, right? And not missing as in like stolen and kept somewhere aside, like in the bin, and it starts with small things. Then it becomes your guitar. Then it becomes, whatever you don't bolt down or lock your door from. And like things would just go missing and it'd be like, your pair of shoes and this and that. And it's like, what the fuck's going on?
Yeah.
Right. And then, and like it got to the point where I was like, I said to my mum, you need to have a break, like why don't you go overseas or something, like go see family, like do something,
Good.
And, it sounded like a good idea. It didn't end up being a good idea because, so I sent her overseas, but then she wouldn't come home. So, so she was like sort of like bouncing between Singapore and Malaysia. So when you go to Singapore, I think if you go by air, you get like a visa for however long, and then to sort of reset it, she would have to go back to Malaysia every now and then. So what happened for me was when I was at uni. At that point in time, I'd sent my mum overseas, so I was basically I didn't have a great relationship with my dad because of everything that happened. My brother was overseas at the time, so it was just basically I was living at home by myself. So I had to get a job. Started working as an apprentice. So I was studying at uni full time, doing my apprenticeship, and working at a Toyota dealership locally, trying to pay the bills and keep going, right? So, like, it was a lot to do for anyone at that point in life, right? But like I don't regret it. I don't have any regrets because at the end of the day, because I didn't have any other choice, I managed to do it all. Like I managed to finish my.
Just about to say, man, you're a soldier. For you to, have a family now, for you to be doing this, you're a soldier. Good on you, man.
So. Yeah, like it is what it is. Like everybody has their own cards that they're dealt, right?
Yeah.
And that's why always from doing the podcast, it's funny what you realize about people. It's like when you're young, when you're young, you always think, oh, you know, how cool would this guy's life be or that guy's life be, right? But you don't really think about what else comes with that life.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why, you know, when I share some of these things, it's so that people understand, like, yeah, people look at me and go, oh, you know, you do this podcast, you do this, oh, you know, the stuff that you're doing so cool. But it's like, okay, well, let's rewind a bit to the shit that wasn't so cool, you know?
Yeah.
Like, and you know, for anyone whose parents went through a similar situation at home, or, you know, well, that's not cool, is it? Like, you know, anyone that's dealing with a family member with mental illness, well, that's not really that cool either, you know? Like, there's so many emotions that are attached to that in your own, like they're there to, they eat away at you unless you actually spend the time to sort of process them and think about how they're impacting you.
Yeah.
So, so I went through this really, really tough 4 or 5 years as I sort of completed all that sort of stuff. And then I went, you know, from there, I had a really great boss at the Toyota dealership that I was at. Shout out to Mark Fitzgerald, and he was really good to me. He was like, you know, Johnny, I'm happy to keep you in my business, or I can get you a job at Toyota Motor Corporation. And so, yeah, I started working down at Caringbah, the Toyota head office.
Down the road from our gym.
Yeah.
Oh, our gym is in Caringbah.
Yeah.
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 I call it Cronulla, but
it's
Cronulla, Caringbah.
Caringbah. Yeah.
Same thing.
Very close. It's all in the Shire.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you're from the Shire, right?
Oh my gosh, yeah, that's been that's a funny joke. I swear to God, my mates, they're like, "Oi, nah, how's it in the new area, bro?" And I'm like, "What do you mean in the area? I'm at home." They're like, "Nah, bro, you're from the Shire now officially." And I'm like, whatever.
Yeah.
Shire's nice, but I like the Shire. It's a nice area.
Yeah, so, you know, that's what started my automotive career. I spent 17 years working in the automotive automotive industry. Ran a Benz dealership in Wollongong, ran a BMW dealership here in Sydney.
Yeah,
and then
nice.
Stopped that. When was that? It's only it'd be almost about a year ago.
Wow.
And not by choice. When I say that, like, the reason why I ended up exiting the business that I was at, so was basically because, you know, throughout this whole pandemic time, you know, there was a lot of what's the right word to put it? Pressure.
Yeah.
For people to do certain things, and I said, look, I'm going to wait, and that my workplace didn't like that, and so then they made me redundant. So
good on you, man. You back what you believe in.
Yeah, look, at the end of the day, you know, you got to make choices that you're comfortable with as a family as well.
100%. Yeah.
And that's where, you know, one of the things that I'm so grateful for with my wife is that she's been so supportive of everything. Like, we make the decisions together from that perspective.
Nice one.
Right? And so, you know, it was one of those things. I was like, oh, okay, wow. So, you know, like, I went from making really, really great money to making no money, right? Like, this is massive turn of events. But on the flip side, I've gone from having no time to having all the time in the world. Right.
Good.
So this
is something money can't buy. That's time.
Exactly. And so, you know, that's where then when we, Ange and I, we sort of took stock of the situation. There's only this period of my kids' lives right now where I can be at home with them.
Yeah.
And at the same time, we've done a bit of a role reversal. So my wife managed to find work. So she's working, and I'm now the stay-at-home parent. And so I get to experience what her life was like when I was at work all the time and she was at home with the kids. So it's been good because I think, you know, from that perspective, like, we can probably understand each other better as well.
Yeah, mad.
But yeah, so like that was, you know, that was me for a very, very long period of time. And then, you know, when you leave something like that, and I guess the parallel I can give you is that, you know, one day when you decide that, you know, you don't want to fight professionally anymore.
Yeah.
Right. And it's time to hang up the gloves from that perspective. You might still work in the industry, so to speak, but there will be so much of your personality tied up to who you are in that as well, that's going to take time to sort of unravel as well.
Yeah.
You know, because I went through that, you know, I had 17 years in the automotive industry, you know, running these businesses and things like that. And it's like, a lot of people only know you because of the things that you were doing.
Yeah.
Right. And so when now you're like, for lack of a better word, you're a nobody.
Yeah.
Right. Then you also realize, oh, okay, these people don't ring anymore.
True.
Right. So it's interesting because I've gotten to experience it, like, what I guess, you know, how, you know, that would feel from a career perspective, from a fighter's perspective as well. But I'm experiencing it from a professional perspective. And, you know, so you have to then look into yourself and go, okay, well, who am I now? Right? If I don't have this aspect of my life, what do I become?
Yeah.
Right? And anybody who, a career that's cut short, let's say somebody gets an injury and they can no longer do this or that, the thing that they love. Like they're going to go through that same emotion of how do I now process that I can no longer do this thing that you're really passionate about and really enjoyed, right? And so that's where you then need to look at, okay, well, how comfortable are you with yourself, right? Were you only comfortable with yourself because you had that job?
Yeah.
Or were
we
you
just talking about that earlier too,
right?
Getting in a routine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that was one of the things. So I sort of filled a lot of my empty space of not working as much with more training, which has been great, and so with the kids though, I end up having to bring the kids around and they come to the my littlest will come to the gym with me and she gets to see it and she's in the environment, which is good. My wife probably doesn't appreciate it as much, but I enjoy it. I enjoy having her around and
it's good, man. You know what I like, but
what's that?
You guys have flipped the switch, and it's always seen the father's got to be the one to go to work, and the mum's got to be the one to stay home. What if the mother don't want to stay home? What if she wants to work? What if she's hands on? So I like that, man.
Well, it's also I feel like there's this. I talk about this quite a bit. That it's almost like there's this pressure nowadays that everybody needs to be able to have a career.
Yeah. Right.
So, and when I say that, whether you're male or female, everybody needs to have this career. And then it's like, there's a stigma. So think about it this way: if when a mum has kids, they go on maternity leave, and maternity leave might be say 9 months, 6 months to a year.
Yeah.
Right. Then the expectation is that they come back to work. Right.
Yeah.
But then, what if you don't want to come back to work? What if you want to just enjoy those few years with your kids while they're young?
Yeah.
And then when they go to school, then you want to re-enter the workforce. Right. So, but there's this sort of stigma around that, where it's like, oh, what you don't want to come back to work? Or you don't need money? Like that's the first thing people say to me is that, oh, you're not working. What are you doing for money?
Yeah.
Right? That's the first thing that people ask me, right? And it's like, okay, well,
people, you know what? Let's just sum this up with this. People are too nosy sometimes. Come on. But don't ask me questions. I'm living my life. That's what you need to say. I feel. Anyways, but hey, are you happy?
Yeah.
I respect it. This is mad.
Yeah.
Like the fact that you're doing this sort of stuff, meeting new people, money can't buy that. That's mad. I like it.
Well, this is the thing, I used to call my workplace the golden handcuffs, right? That, I've got gold, 24 karat solid gold worth lots of money, but I can't use my hands.
Yeah.
Because I've got no time to use them.
Golden handcuffs. I like that.
Right?
I might use that one time.
Yeah.
That's
the golden handcuffs, right? Like you can have, when you got all the money, like you got this money coming in, but you got no time to use it. What do you do then? You go and spend it on things. And then you buy these things for what? What do they give you?
Yeah.
How long does that last for? Right? Or what, you're going to buy it and just store it away? Like we all end up in the same place, like I said earlier. Right? So from that perspective, it's like, for me, it's more about the experiences now.
Yeah.
And so what are the experiences? Well, the experiences are, having a good conversation. How often do you actually sit down and talk to somebody?
Yeah.
Right? Nowadays, people always messaging. It's not the same. I feel like I get more out of doing a podcast with almost a stranger, right?
Yeah.
But, at the end of this session, you and I both know what's in each other's hearts.
Yeah.
Right? And then, a year might pass, 2 years might pass, 5 years might pass, but we'll always remember this moment.
100%.
Right? And that's different to, just going and operating like I don't know, what's the shout out to my mate Jack, Panther Jack. He would say it's like people are NPCs, non-playable characters, right? They're just going through and doing their thing every day, but they're not really living life.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, he's got a point.
He's funny the way he puts it, but it's pretty. Have you ever seen the movie Free Guy?
Never seen it.
No, okay. It was a Ryan Reynolds movie. I think it came out a couple of years ago now. But it's like, he's a character in a video game.
Yeah.
And spoiler alert, but if you haven't seen it by now, it doesn't matter. You might as well go back and watch it after. But
yeah.
But he's a character in a video game who sort of wakes up and becomes sentient, like he's AI, but doesn't realize that he's not a real person. Like he just thinks that he's alive, but he's not being played by somebody who's real. Yeah. And but like the point is that like there's all these NPCs and all they're programmed to do is just do the same things every day.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, like that's not what I don't think that will allow you to live life to the full. You know, going through and having these experiences is what will.
Yeah.
But a lot of times I think people are sort of, they're stuck by the fear, you know, the fear of, you know, oh, well, I don't think I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that. Why? Why can't you do that? I was having this conversation with another mate about
those thoughts. I've been there.
Yeah. Tell us about it.
I've been there. Well, I mean, I've been talking about that for a lot of this time. I mean, the whole self-doubt thing. But yeah, like I said before, I'm working on it.
Yeah.
It's getting better.
Yeah.
It's getting better. Self-doubt wouldn't have even had me come here to have this conversation with you in the past.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm here. I feel like you got an interesting story. And you know what? All these sort of feelings and you know what, another thing too, growing up, and no one ever told me this. I know no one ever told me this, but just being a male too, right? Being a male, I feel like they're just stereotyped to have certain feelings and stuff like that. And I want to say a special shout out to my brother Vils. That's whose shirt that I'm wearing.
Mm-hmm.
It's this mental health movement. It's called Poly Kids, and they make these shirts, got your back. And yeah, it's mainly based around men's mental health. Pretty much saying that men, I don't know if you like, yeah, men do have feelings. And I don't know if you've seen one of the NRL ads. It's saying if you ever need to offload anything, you know, you can talk to me. There's this big Tongan guy that's getting asked that question. That's my mate Vils. That's his campaign.
Yep.
And he makes these t-shirts. And ever since I met him, I learned all these things about. He just says to me, like, I don't know. He just normalizes these feelings for men, and I feel like it's starting to get a lot more spotlight nowadays with the NRL, with families talking about it. It's good, you know. I feel like all this is surround, like all these reasons why people feel these certain ways is based around mental health.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I'll tell you a story about suicide.
Mm-hmm.
So in 2019, one of my high school mates committed suicide.
I'm sorry to hear that.
So what happened was we had Easter Monday, my family, Ivan's family, and so my mate Adrian, he came out we went to Ivan's place for dinner, and you know, that night just seemed like any other night we caught up, you know, like you'll find this thing, you know, with guys that you're close to growing up, no matter how much time passes, right? Like it always feels like it's old times.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that sort of feeling can resonate for everyone, and there was nothing that stood out about that night. Like nothing really felt like it was different or anything was off.
You just never know when someone's going through something, eh?
That's it.
Yeah.
And 5 days later, I get a phone call, and you know, I get told Adrian's dead. He committed suicide.
Sorry, man. That's sad. That's sad. You know, like it's something that I try to do often is check up on my mates. I'm not going to sit here and say I check up on everybody, which I don't. It's impossible because I do have a lot of friends and I do have a lot of people that I consider as family.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, something that I don't feel is stressed enough is to check up on your loved ones. To just to say, hey bro, how are ya? Hey sis, how are ya? You don't know what they're going through.
Yeah.
And yeah, just be that person that someone feels like they can rely on to talk to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like we all have that person now. I got a lot of people in my life. I'm blessed to have a big family that I know that if I was ever going through something, battling demons, I got someone to talk to.
Yeah.
Whether it's one of my close friends or my family. But yeah, that's why I like this movement that my bro Vils is doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's important to be able to be able to broach some of those hard topics too, right? Like, you know, if I was to think back and go, if I knew something was wrong, I would have tried to ask more, you know, like, and you know, you just wonder if there's something you could say, and that's the thing. Like everybody always has those feelings after.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's so hard to be able to just come out and ask somebody about it, right? To go, you know, how you feeling? Is everything okay? Right? Like it just sounds like a weird question.
Yeah.
Right. But you'll always regret not asking that question.
Yeah.
Right. And, you know, I've reflected on it a lot. And, you know, Adrian's one of the reasons why I started this podcast was because, you know, after that, then it was like I started looking at my kids and thinking a lot about life and, you know, when are you truly gone from this world and all these sorts of questions, right? And there's a Disney Pixar movie, Coco, about the Mexican boy on the Day of the Dead. And basically he's like goes on this journey to try and meet his grandfather, but turns out to be a different guy that's his grandfather, and that guy was at risk of being forgotten. And that made me think a lot that, okay, when you're gone from this world is when, you're forgotten. That's when you truly are gone from this world. So I thought, I wanted to try and collect the stories on the podcast, not just my own, but like other people's stories as well. Because, even though you're young one day, this is a really great snapshot of who you are today.
Yeah.
And in 20 years' time, when you've got kids or whatever else has happened, one day your kids might want to go back and go, oh, who was Mikey at that age? Who was Johnny at this age that he is now?
Yeah.
Because, I think I always thought about this, when I started this podcast, was like I thought about my own parents, and I go, I saw my parents working really, really hard running their own businesses. But, if you sort of ask them, oh, what were the things that, that happened or were difficult or all these sorts of things, they'll give you like a very high level summary.
Yeah.
Because they probably can't remember all the details of the time. But when you're going through it and you can talk about, okay, this is how I was feeling at this point in time, like that's a nice little time capsule there.
Yeah.
That, one day, if my kids listen back and if my kids go through this period where, like maybe now they're out of work and they're in the same position that Dad's currently in now, then they might listen back to an episode and go, oh, Dad went through this and this is what he felt, or this is what this is what he experienced. And likewise, by listening to other people's stories, I've gone through this situation, I'm going through this situation, and that this other person that, Dad had on the podcast went through that situation, Or, my son wants to be a boxer and he goes, oh, he's just about to have his pro debut. What did Mikey feel? Right? You know what I mean? Like that's the sort of, I don't know. It's like sort of like a semi-selfish sort of reason, but I don't know. But I also really enjoy just having the conversations.
Yeah. I feel like it's something that people don't do enough of nowadays is conversate.
Yeah.
Everything is messages.
Yeah.
Hey, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Nothing much. Well, not even nothing much. NMWBU.
Yeah.
Like that. Well, nothing much. What about you? Oh, no, nothing. Just chilling. All right, yeah, you take care. We'll catch up soon. That catch up majority of the time never happens. Right? And yeah, I don't know. I just feel like it's something that not many people do nowadays. Like if someone's messaging me for more than 5 minutes, I'll pick up the phone and call them.
Yeah.
I don't like typing anyways.
Yeah.
So it's like easier. Have a yarn with them. You know what I mean? So yeah, this is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's switch it up a bit. Let's talk about your boxing training. So, when you were with this guy Johnny when you were from 10 to 12, and then after you break 15 to something.
Yeah.
Yep. And then so when did you go to BTs?
Went to BTs. I've been with Brett. I've known Brett for a while. Like we were mates before he was my coach.
Oh, okay.
Which is why I think it's good that I got that relationship in my corner. But I've been fighting out of Brett's now for a year, just over.
Yep.
I had my last amateur fight with Brett.
Yep.
And I've been doing strength and conditioning with the man downstairs, Dave.
Yep.
Dave Barker. He's Tim Zoo's strength coach.
Okay.
Very, very, probably one of the most wise men I've ever met in my life.
Yep.
He's so smart. Brett and Dave, been with BTs for just over a year now.
Yep. And then, from, I guess in terms of the evolution of your training, right? How's it changed? I guess, so if you think back to, obviously when you were 10 to 12, it's very basic, right?
Of course.
But as you sort of gone through and started to get some fight experience in the amateur ranks and things like that, how have you guys sort of drilled down to make it specific to you?
You know what I like about Brett's is that I feel like when I was evolving, even on my own over the years, I shied away from the basics.
Okay.
And I went and I tried to make it too fancy, and I tried to be my own sort of, even though I feel like I got my own sort of style now, but I tried to be my own sort of thing. Brett's a guy that reminded me of where I started. He reminded me of all the little things that I moved away from. And the fact that basics, simple as this, basics work. You can't go wrong. There's a reason why they teach you the basics.
Yeah.
So he just pretty much turned me back towards there and then evolved me from there. And what I like about Brett is that he never told me you have to fight a certain way. He never told me you should do this, you should do that. He just says to me, okay, if that works for you, let's just try this. He's the type of guy that gives me reasons why we do things. And I was that annoying kid, even if in school, that'd say, hey, do this. And I'd be like, why?
Yeah.
Yeah, Brett and Dave give me reasons behind everything. And he doesn't try to limit me to what I should be doing. He just tries to tell me why he thinks that I should do something else.
Yeah.
And he'll explain it to me. So yeah, good coach. Brett's a very good coach.
And then from a strength and conditioning perspective, like, I guess, were you always doing some form of strength conditioning?
Never, ever. This is the first time I've ever done anything like straight S&C wise. And I used to always just think fitness wins, heart wins, and just willingness to bang, like just go in there and just punch on. That's it.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, Dave's another guy that's got reasons behind why he does things. Don't get me wrong, Brett and Dave, they always tell me science can only do so much. You got to work hard. You have to.
Yep.
Right? And we know you got that, but let's just work hard doing stuff like this. And I feel like ever since I started doing S&C with Dave, I mean, look, I'm not going to say my punches are deadly and, that's real cliche. But one thing I do believe in is that I feel a lot more balanced as a fighter, which is something that I used to always be bad with. I used to always be a bit off balance because I'm going in trying to brawl. But yeah, my balance
is Maori in you.
Yeah, that's it. So my balance is a lot better. I feel like my transferring of weight is better. And yeah, transferring weight and balance mostly. And yeah, I think probably the push behind, I feel like I do have a little bit more like power behind what I'm throwing. Yeah. But yeah, just all new. I used to always just believe in run long, run till you can't run no more, box till you can't box no more, and then you've done it right. Tick. Yeah.
So you had to change your perspective from that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Isn't that interesting? It's but I think, when you actually put a cap on some of those things as well, it allows you to be more consistent.
Yeah.
Right? The old adage, the adage that I always love is consistency over intensity. There's no point going to the gym and going 120%, blow yourself out. Next day you can't walk.
True.
And then it's like, okay, because you can't walk the next day, you don't go to the gym. Yeah. And then you take 2 days off to recover. Then the third day you go back and you blow yourself out again. Like, you might as well have just gone to the gym, gone at 70 to 80%, but be back in there the next day, because at the end of the day, you can't replace time.
No.
Right? So if you've done an hour every day for 7 days, that's 7 hours that you've done in the week, versus your one session at 120% for an hour, right? And then you haven't gone back till Wednesday.
Yeah.
And you do it again and you've only done 3 hours that week.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. See, despite me being even injured or something, like when I've gone too hard, I'm always like, just get up, because you're going to go back to being that fat kid. I always remind myself. So I'd go 120%, but every day, even if I didn't feel right. And I have more days where I don't feel good enough to train, but I just train. Yeah. I'm not one of these people that say, oh yeah, I feel good every day, or yeah, I love being in the gym. Yeah. Number one, most days I don't like being in the gym because I don't want to train. I'm lazy. Okay. Or not lazy, but everybody likes being lazy. It's mad. Kick back on the couch, watch some YouTube, eat some food. But yeah, I don't know. I just feel like before I was with Brett and Dave, I was just too much hard knocks, if that makes sense. Yeah. And I used to pride myself on the whole, I'm the hardest worker in the room type of thing. Yeah. And once I get a certain compliment, I always tell myself, okay, now there's expectations. Yeah. Like last year when I turned 19, I went straight from sparring at the gym, and then I was like, let's do this. Because I told myself earlier on in the year that I'll do this, right? I'll tell you what I did. So I ran my age, right? And I was like to myself, yeah, this will be a mad Instagram post. Everyone's going to say, oh, they're hardest worker in the room. Run his age. And I was like, yeah, that's mad. And then just sort of set expectations for myself. And then I just sort of cling to that whole, people think that I'm the hardest worker. But sometimes the smarter worker wins.
Yeah. It's a balance.
Yeah. And right now I feel like where I am with Brett and Dave, I do have a good balance between, they said to me, we're glad that you're the hard worker that you are, but it's our job to just, keep you in line and say, hey, we think that you should do this. That's right. And they'll pull me aside and say, hey, you're overdoing it a bit, mate. Just try and do this. Or they don't force anything on me. They don't say you should. They just say, consider this. And I feel like that makes me listen to it more. You know what I mean? Absolutely. I feel like a lot of things that Brett and Dave say come from the heart. Because like I said, I knew them both as mates before they were my coaches. So yeah. And you also mentioned, so you visited a few different places, trying to work out what was the right spot. Yeah. Yeah. Like, you don't have to name any places, but I never really visited it. What it was is I was just I voluntarily got around to a few different gyms because I was, like I said before, I get comfortable
Yep.
in a certain place and I just stay. And like I always just say to myself, stay here, stay here, stay here. But me getting out of my comfort zone was me going to other gyms, meeting new people,
Yep.
shaking that hand of that person that I was once, nervous to meet, or shaking the hand of just the gym owners and saying, anytime your boys need help for fights, I'm here.
Yeah.
And I was getting around just doing sparring at different gyms. But I did stay consistent to the gym that I was at.
Okay.
It's just they were only open for or the coach was only there a few days a week,
Yeah.
So I couldn't be there every day. So I was just like to myself, I'm not going to sit here twiddling my thumbs. I'll go learn new things.
Yeah.
Learn maybe something that guy thinks.
Yeah, different style.
And just put it all into one and make it my own.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's a good mindset to have. Like I always view it as you have your home base, right?
Yeah.
And then from home, you always want to travel though.
Yeah.
Because that's where you're going to get the experience. If you just stay at home every day, like there's only so many things you can do at home.
That's it.
Right? So, I think that's the right mentality to have when it comes to that. When it came to, I just want to talk about your weight loss journey as well, from when you were 108 kilos or so, right? How long did it take you to lose the weight? And I guess, you yourself already knew that, they asked you what your weight was and you're like, oh, maybe 95.
Yeah.
But I guess I'm just curious, when you reflect back on those moments of trying to lose that weight, what were some of the things that did you hit a wall at any point?
Yep.
Yeah.
Hit a wall,
Yeah.
mentally and physically,
So
because sometimes
talk us through it.
your body gets used to certain foods and they cling to it. But see, this is the thing. Everybody said to me, man, Mikey, how many school holidays did we have and you've rocked up looking like that? They thought I was sick. A lot of people thought I was sick because I lost it so fast.
Oh, really?
I did it in about 11 months.
Yep.
Right? And that's 30 odd kilos. But what it is, I'm a very impatient person. And I realized, okay, you eat less, you got to lose weight. It's got to work.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I got addicted to seeing the scale go down in like quick succession. I saw the scale go down one time like 2 kilos, but I used to weigh bad habit. I used to weigh myself after I trained.
Oh, okay.
And, not only is that weight loss like in body fat, but it's also weight loss in water.
Yeah.
I got addicted to that. And I was like, I ate less today. Think about it. If you stand on the scale with the food that you ate, you'd be a kilo up. You stand on the scale with a liter of water, you're a kilo up. So everyone is so interested in how I did it. I go, you know how you lose weight? You know how I lost weight, I told them? They go, how? I go, don't eat. That's how I did it. Or I just ate less than what I did.
Yeah.
And yeah, I did hit a wall, but then eventually it just, I had to start just eating a little bit better instead of starving myself. And it ended up working. You can't go wrong with calories in, calories out.
Yeah.
And that's how I did it.
Yeah.
But I didn't stick to one diet. I just had a bit of balance, which caused me to, I used to say, okay, you eat all week healthy and have one cheat meal. So it gave me something to look forward to, I guess.
Yeah.
Because I feel like every time when I was a big boy, I'd eat the same thing every day and I'd feel depressed.
Yeah.
I'd feel like, same shit every day.
But it tastes so good nowadays too. It's just
it tastes amazing. Now that I have that cheat day,
yeah,
it's number one, something to look forward to, and it tastes amazing. Amazing. The first meal after the fight was the best food I've ever eaten. And it was some falafel from Najee's Riverwood. Shout out Najee's Riverwood. Yeah.
I always get the kebab plate with the chips,
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
You ever been to Najee's Riverwood?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, it's cracker, eh?
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, it's mad. And it's mad because it's like right around the corner from where we live.
Oh, there you go.
So yeah, I'm like in the peak. I'm like right on the border of Peakhurst and Riverwood, but our address is in Peakhurst.
Yep.
And then just go. It's a walk. Yeah, it's a walk. Like probably a kilometer from my house, kilometer and a half.
Yep.
And you boom at Najee's.
Yep.
So you walk, you burn your calories,
That's
and then
deadly.
go pump that Najee's.
That's deadly.
That's it. Oh man.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay. So then, so when you were going through that whole process, right? Like, I guess, did your parents ever pull you up and say, hey, you're a bit big, or?
Never.
Never?
Never, ever. My parents always used to remind me, my brother, and that older cousin I was talking about before that's been to all my fights. He said to me, because I reached out to him, like I feel like I could tell him anything. He said to me, hey, whether you're 100 and whatever kilos that you are, eating KFC on the lounge, or whether you're the fittest man on this earth and have every world record to your name, we're going to love you the same.
Yeah.
They don't care.
That's good.
They say, son, we don't care about your looks, we care about your heart.
Yeah.
But if I'm winning, my family's winning. So, if I'm happy with how I am now, they're happy. That's all that they really care about. I got a very, very, very supportive family.
Yeah.
If you couldn't hear it that night,
Yeah,
far out.
Absolutely.
Oh my God.
Okay. And I guess, the other thing that I wanted to sort of switch gears and talk about was when you started working at such a young age, were there any lessons that you sort of that have stuck with you over the years? So, from working at Tex or working in the doing the shipping container thing, like I guess, were there any things that you sort of picked up being in those environments that you're like, okay, whether it was something that you want to emulate or something that was like, I never want to be here again?
You know what? I feel like something that I've learned out of any industry I've been in is just how to communicate better. Not everything's about small talk. Hey, how are you? Good, thanks. How are you? Not everything's about small talk. I feel like I learn a lot more about myself, and I'm so happy that I worked in these different industries because I learned that I'm a very versatile person. I can work around different people. I'm not the hardest, because I used to think to myself, man, like your family, they love talking to you, but you don't conversate too well with other people. But then me working in these different industries told me, okay, different industries have different type of people, and you conversated well with all of them. So you know what, you're not a very hard person to get along with. It was good that I worked in all these industries because it reminded me, hey, you're not that bad after all. You're pretty cool. You know what I mean? So it helped me give myself credit for once. Working in these industries, I'd say that's what I took out of all of them. Yeah. It's
good to be flexible, right? You
100%.
need to be able to speak to anyone.
Yeah.
And that's where, and part of that is having confidence, right?
Yeah.
Because if you're not confident, whether it's from a ability to handle yourself, if you don't feel confident to handle yourself, you don't want to talk to the big guy, right? Because you're like, oh, I'm scared what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas if you have confidence, then you're willing to engage with that person, and they might be surprised, like, oh, what's this guy?
Yeah.
And you don't mean it's not like you're trying to start a fight. I'm just saying, like, just having conversation.
Yeah.
Right? That you can carry yourself no matter who you're talking to, whether it's a CEO or it's a tradie or whoever. Right? And I think, one of the things that I'm also curious about with your dad working in the spray painting industry, right?
Yeah.
Were there any particular lessons that he wanted to instill with you?
Man, you know what? My dad, very wise dude, and I don't think he knows that.
Yeah.
He's a very wise dude. But my father, I don't know. There's a lot of I could go all day about the things that my parents have taught me. But one thing I learned off my dad is hard work takes you so far. My dad's the hardest worker I know of. Very hard worker. That's all I could think of just at this moment when it comes to the topic of work and what I've learnt off my father. Because one thing like I said, one thing I learned off my dad, hard knocks always. And my dad's the hardest worker. Yeah. Even when he was an athlete, he was the hardest worker in the room. Because my dad was a bodybuilder and like a very competitive one too. And the way Norm won all his bloody stuff is because he was first in, last out, always. Yeah. So
Wow. Okay. Cool. Well, I think that's a great way to sort of tie off this podcast, unless there's anything 100%. Else you want to talk about.
Nah, well, thank you for having me on this podcast. It's an honour to be here.
No, it's a pleasure. And I look forward to hopefully, wherever your next fight is, hopefully, shout out to whoever's organising commentary and hit me up because
hit him up.
I'm your guy.
Hey, he's not biased. He's very
you got to be balanced.
He stays balanced.
Yeah.
Anything I did, he's like, good job, Mikey, but he took it well. Then anything he did, well done. What's his name? Ashley. Well done, Ashley. But Mikey's coming back. Yep. And I was like, wait, this guy's pretty cool.
You got to see, this is the thing. And one of the things I worried about in terms of getting back into competition was that I don't want people to feel like I'll ever be biased when it comes to commentary.
Oh yeah,
because you got to
tell that's what you were doing too.
You got to keep it separate, right? Yeah. Even if it's your best friend in there or your teammate or whatever the case may be.
You're just watching a fight.
You're watching a fight. You got to call it as it is.
100%.
And like it's one of the things I love is when you're next to the ring and you can hear what each corner's saying.
Yeah.
Because I'm always using that to improve
Did you hear what
my
my corner was saying?
I couldn't.
Man, to be honest, I'm just saying, but like there's nerves that's taking up this and taking up that.
Yeah.
And then there's also the actual noise of the crowd.
Yeah.
I couldn't hear a lot of it. Honestly, I'm not going to lie. Brett, I love you, but a lot of things I couldn't hear.
Well, the hard work was done beforehand.
True.
Right?
True.
So, even though you were like, look, to be honest, a lot of it was muscle memory. Those muscle memory things are built in the gym.
Yeah.
right? You only build up how you're going to respond in the fight by doing those things in the gym.
Yeah.
And so, and that's where the sparring comes in, and that's where the drills come in, and all that sort of work. You put that work in, it's going to yield itself in the fight.
100%.
Yeah. All right. If people want to find you, where do they find you?
Riverwood, nah. Mikey Sassine on Instagram. MikeySassine. Mikey Sassine on Instagram. That's all I'm on. No TikTok, no Facebook.
Hey, good way to do it.
That's it.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for having me on.